Hey, this is Chris from Northern FanCon, and I'm with the most sought person for me, because I've literally been pursuing this guy for 3 days. Mark Meer, the great Mark Meer.
Hello.
Caution may contain nuts, tiny plastic man, bucket heads.
Bucket heads, yes.
And on top of that, One Man Walking Dead, which we had on the stage yesterday. Last night.
I did some voices in video games too.
Yeah, he did some game, I heard, that I didn't play 150, no, I think probably 300 plus hours.
Yeah, all 3 games, probably.
Absolutely. He was my literal paragon. And he was not a renegade.
On occasion. Wait, who was that vagrant?
What was that? Was that a ghost?
No, it was Norm.
It was Norm.
He's the reason that we're all here. Really.
Exactly. And the 3rd time he's actually bombed my video. So, first of all, as someone who attended, now we can do it in post. By the way, there's a quick little 1-minute clip from One Man Walking Dead, so you can see how much you missed. You look at it and go, crap, I really wish that was there. You can see that. It shows how much energy this man is. I want to put a playing card in between your feet to make that motorbike sound.
Oh, well, thanks.
How did that come about? Because you only told me about
One Man Walking Dead?
Yes.
If you're familiar with the show called One Man Star Wars, which is performed by Mr. Charlie Ross.
Yeah.
The director of that, TJ Daw, who is a writer who's very big on the Fringe circuit, and he's a performer as well, does a lot of one-man shows. He approached me and actually asked, so you've seen One Man Star Wars? I'm like, yes, I love that show. And he knew that I was a Walking Dead fan and suggested that perhaps we collaborate on a Walking Dead show, which we did.
And so it's a collaboration for you two, so you guys co-wrote
We co-wrote the script, yes, and TJ directed. I performed it.
I can't remember my phone number. How do you remember is it 8 seasons?
It's all 8. The first 8 seasons of Walking Dead in about 75 minutes, with everyone performed by me, including all the zombies
and the sound effects.
And the sound.
Except for whistling. There's a couple moments where you get the audience.
I get the audience to provide the whistles of the saviors.
Yeah, exactly. In case you're wondering, I don't whistle. But
not everyone does.
And of course, this is acting. But is it? I mean, I'm blown away when someone can recall that level of detail.
I will admit that I review the script for that show right before I do, every time I do it. It's a lot of words, and 75 minutes with no one to cue me except me. So exactly. I don't trust myself to not review the script before doing that show.
And it's incredibly fascinating, the vocal range, the different characters. You got the mannerisms and the cliches. You acknowledge, it's almost like it's a really almost serious recap, because you get to see the story gets recapped, but you also poke fun at all the little points that we all know.
Yes, and not only the plots of the show. I should mention I am a fan of the show and of the comic book.
Yeah,
so any mockery is done with love. So.
Yes.
But there are some mentions of behind the scene things and meta things going on with the network and that sort of thing. So yeah, we have fun with it.
I actually admit I got an education. I learned things about the behind the scenes from your video that I didn't know, and I watched the show. I'm like, I didn't know that's why that person left.
Yes.
So how long have you been doing the show for?
Let's see, about a year now. I premiered it at the Orlando Fringe Festival, and that would have been around this time last year. Subsequently, I did it at the Edmonton International Fringe Festival.
Yep.
I've also done it down in Atlanta, the hometown where Walking Dead itself is filmed. And that was at Dad's Garage Theater. Some friends of mine run that.
It wasn't really Dad's Garage, I hope.
Oh no, it's called Dad's Garage Theater Company.
Exactly.
And they actually operate out of an old church in the 4th Ward in Atlanta. They're a great bunch.
Wow. Thank you.
And I always do a lot of improv with them. I've done my Improv Dungeons and Dragons show down there with them, and with Colin Mockery, of Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah, because...
And the other 2 places, I've done it here, Walking Dead, here at Northern FanCon, and I've also done it at KFX Fan Expo.
Yes, you did. You did it earlier this year.
In Kelowna.
When's the next one?
I don't know. I don't have a current booking for it, but I do it at cons now. So there we are.
There we go. So if it's at a con near you and Mark's there, hopefully, if he doesn't do it, maybe you should make a request to get Mark to do it. So now if you hey, Mark's showing up, he's doing One Man Walking Dead, and the town says no, you tell them that should change.
Well, thanks.
So beyond online, going back to online, so you do a lot of improv stuff. You bounce around with a lot of conventions.
I do.
And a lot of stuff relating to role-playing and D&D.
I
were
do.
Just in Wales.
I was just in Wales at the Wales Comic Con. I will be in Los Angeles in about a week and a half. doing Wizards of the Coast's big streaming event. Last year was The Stream of Many Eyes. This year it's called The Descent. And I'll actually be portraying some of my characters from the Baldur's Gate games put out by Beamdog, which are all coming to console this year. They partnered with Skybound to bring classic games like Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, Planescape Torment, and Neverwinter Nights to consoles, along with Baldur's Gate Siege of Dragonspear, which is the interstitial chapter that Beamdog did themselves.
Forget Dragon Age. Just go play the classics.
Well, play Dragon Age 2. I'm in that.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Dragon Age 2.
I'm in Dragon Age 2. I'm in all of them, really.
Even the late...
Inquisition, yes.
I shouldn't ask you, is that whether or not... Because I know they're making Dragon Age 4.
I certainly couldn't comment on that. Well, but yes, I am in all the previous Dragon Age.
Right. So I guess because you and BioWare, all right, because you're based in Alberta, BioWare Edmonton's based out of Edmonton.
I am an Edmontonian and an Albertan, and BioWare is based in Edmonton, Alberta.
But unless, once again, your vocal range, did you do a voice for Anthem?
For Anthem? No, I did a little bit of work for the E3 demo on it.
Are you going to?
Oh, yes. So you have a voice in that?
Yes, I was actually the Scars in the E3 demo.
I gotta rewatch that because I actually play Anthem. Despite whatever negativity you might have, I play the hell out of it.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
But now
I'm sure Bio will be very glad to hear that.
Yeah, but I know, but it's one of those situations where it would have been so much more enjoyable if my character was played by Mark Meer. Because like I said, Commander Shepard.
I think that can be said of all games, really.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations. And if you're a writer, they say if you have a lull in storytelling, a guy named a very, very famous editor, Gardner Dozier, who did the History of Science Fiction series every year. He's passed away, but an author was telling him, like, how do I fix my lull? And he said, add dinosaurs. If there's ever a lull, just add dinosaurs. So you ever see dinosaurs just magically show up in a story?
I would think that applies to dragons as well. You could just add dragons.
True, but I actually think that if there's a lull in a game, you just add Mark.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the word out.
Exactly. You are the Meer Master.
Thanks, man.
The Mark Meer Master. So anyway, Dragon Ages. I'm going to put cash in the barrel head. I'm going to bet you. You don't say it, but I'm going to see you in Dragon Age 4. Most likely. You can still play the old Mass Effect games and the new, so you can always get your daily dose of Mark from the previous sources.
And actually, there's an ongoing game that both Jennifer Hale and I are in. I think I've spoken to you about it before. The Long Dark.
Yes, worth repeating, please.
Yes, that is a survival game which has been described as player versus Canada. It's a very Canadian game. It's set in Canada. Yep. Jennifer and I are both Canadian. Also, David Hayter, the voice of Solid Snake.
Nice.
Also a Canadian. He's a Los Angeles resident these days, but born in Canada and a Canadian citizen. Yep. And also Elias Tufexis, who plays Adam Jensen in Deus Ex.
Nice.
Yes.
So let's also talk about another plug.
More plugs. This is all about plugs.
So you can also be found
on Amazon Prime.
On Yitte Imit Yip, which is unfortunately mirrored to be Tiny Plastic Men on Amazon. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a very eccentric little character, though. You almost look like a doctor.
Yes.
So who do you play? Like, what is Tiny? Because it's not one story, is it?
No, well, it is actually. It's sort of a hybrid of sitcom and sketch comedy.
Okay.
With some animated bits as well. And the main story is about three guys who work as prototype testers at a struggling toy company. And they're the guys that work in the basement testing the toys. However, all the toys that are produced by this company are either extremely dangerous or highly inappropriate for children or radioactive or possessed or sentient or all of the above. And so it's a very dangerous job. And we've got 4 seasons of that on Amazon Prime. And I'm one of the creators of the series, one of the writers, and I play October in he's one of the toy testers.
Yes, I have seen this. I think I've seen stuff online. I don't have Amazon Prime, I have to get Amazon Prime. And could you explain, I've seen bits and pieces of you with horns, Mephistopheles.
Yes, that is a web series called Necessary Evil.
Right.
And that's also produced in Edmonton. Randy Brzezowski is the series creator on that, and he plays Asmodeus, or Asmodeus, depending on which way you choose to pronounce it. I always say Asmodeus. Right. And I play Mephistopheles, so you know.
Yeah, I love that.
He's a demon with some pedigree.
But because it's because you're kind of almost in character there for a second, because that voice it's very much the game show kind of.
Yes, he's
it's the perfect
And the series sort of looks at Hell has a very corporate structure in this show. It's essentially like a cubicle job when you work in Hell.
Yeah.
And all the demons, you know, they're essentially office workers.
But the bureaucratic tone, like your character's voice, is like it's almost like if you take the horns off, you're just a corporate guy.
Yes. Well, I mean, you know, Mephistopheles is fairly high in the corporate structure of Hell. So yeah, he's an executive.
Yeah, I have to admit, I had a soft spot. I was just like, well, that was born for that role because you have with the makeup, you have the physique. And I was like, well, that's perfect.
So thanks, man. I'm glad you liked it.
I'm sure that was a compliment.
No, thank you. No, I take it.
You play a demon quite nicely.
Thank you.
Yes, you could channel the voices of Hell. So after this, you're heading back home, or you're heading to?
After this, I'll be back home for about a week, and then I'll head to Los Angeles for the Descent.
When do you play in a castle?
I will be playing. It's an event called Dungeons and Dragons in a Castle, D&D in a Castle, and it will be this summer. I'm actually doing 2 of the castles because there's several of them, and a number of streaming groups are hosting. Maze Arcana is hosting one. I'm doing the Uncommon Trusts Castle, and I'm also doing the Library Bards Castle. So I'll be Dungeon Master at
These are
both
Pacific castles, and where are they?
Yeah, I'm doing Langley Castle and Caverswall Castle.
And where are those?
One, I believe Caverswall is in the south of England, and Langley Castle is quite far north of England, almost in Scotland.
Have you been castle hopping? Have you ever castle hopped?
I have had the chance to stay in castles, actually, and when over in the UK. And I also do a Call of Cthulhu LARP.
I heard about that.
I do that over in the UK. It's a private one, actually. It's not open to the public. Some friends of mine who are all professional actors and brilliant folks.
Oh, there'll be a fly on that wall.
They throw these. We've had the opportunity to play on a number of historic sites.
Right.
And they're setting in sort
site?
of World War II Britain.
Oh, nice. Do you have a favorite site?
There were a number. One of my favorites was a game that we got to play in the bunker that the British government would have been housed in had there been a nuclear war in the 50s and 60s.
Nice.
And it's since been decommissioned and is a museum.
Right.
But we had access to it. Overnight we got to play in the bunker, 80 feet underground, big steel blast doors, all the lights out.
When we were running, the actual blast happened, and you were the last. Only a bunch of actors.
Only some LARPers were left.
Only the actors.
Only some H.P. Lovecraft fans were left.
Oh, the irony. I've been to Dover, I've been to Windsor, I've been to a whole bunch in Scotland. I love wall castles and a few other ones. I love the castles that haven't been like updated.
Yeah, I know that Langley is like a 5-star hotel, so I think Caverswall is a bit more rustic.
Kind of like glamping.
It is glamping.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's an aspect of it. People who sign up for it, they can either have a room in the castle, in the hotel, or they can do some glamping in a little medieval encampment in tents out on the front lawn.
I gotta go to one of these.
Mm-hmm. I would suggest you sign up.
I would, but
there is a waiting list. I believe we are sold out for this summer, but what can it hurt to join the waiting list? Because there are dropouts on occasion, and I'm sure they'll do it again at some point.
And you still run improv out of Edmonton?
I do, yes.
You have an improv theater?
Yes, I have a number of theaters I work with. Rapid Fire Theater.
What's updates?
That is the company that produces Improvised Dungeons and Dragons, which I do, and also the Doctor Who improv show, Doctor Whom. And I do a number of shows with them. We have a big improv festival every June in Provanza. Last year we actually had Colin Mockery come out and play Improvised Dungeons and Dragons with us. And
obviously the Nathan Villain came out too.
Well, Nathan is actually alumni of Rapid Fire. He got his start with Rapid Fire, and he's come out and played with us a number of times. There's also Nathan is also an alumni of Dynasty, the improvised soap opera.
Yes, another
and
one.
I do that at the Varscona Theater. This season we're actually doing we're calling it Lord of Thrones. So it's a mashup of Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, and actually every fantasy show. Yeah, every fantasy show.
A little bit of language in the wardrobe.
Yes, there have been references to Tilda Swinton as the White Queen and various other things.
And that was part of one time where you did a 24-hour.
That 50-hour, actually.
Never mind.
We do 50-hour-long shows that many of the actors do without sleep, and these marathon shows in Edmonton are usually in the fall. There's also one that happens in London that they basically came over and did hours, loved it so much that they started one up in London, and we try to make it out to that event, too.
That is fantastic. So, for me, we haven't been back to Edmonton for some time, but this is the only reason why I want to come to Edmonton, because I want to see
Oh.
It's one of those things.
Well, you should come during our Fringe Festival in August.
When is that? August?
August, usually middle to end of August.
Exactly. So that'd be a good trip because we're going to go to Kelowna Comic Con, and maybe if there's a situation, maybe we can get you to come down to that one,
Right.
and then we can swing around Edmonton and see you on stage. If it's anything like One Man Walking Dead, I assume it's as good quality.
Well,
if
thank
not
you,
better.
sir. Thank you. Yeah, and so I will actually be doing another show I'm working on with TJ, a new show at this year's Fringe. It is an adaptation of The Damned Highway by Nick Mamadis and Brian Keane, which is best described as Hunter S. Thompson meets H.P. Lovecraft. And,
Which you were telling me about, and I effing love.
Yeah, so
like
that will be
everything.
another one-man show, and
you've got to bring
and it's
that.
the first time I've ever tried adapting a novel into a stage play.
I think this is definitely something we should consider bringing next year.
Maybe.
Because I would pay money for that. I also mentioned to you that if you and what's his name who co-wrote the,
TJ Dog.
worked on a one-man Game of Thrones, you could print your own money.
We may have
I
to
wouldn't be
take
throwing cash on the stage. That would be a little
We'll
inappropriate.
take that into consideration.
Because I think that would be, now that the show is over,
Yes.
the meta can really trickle to the surface.
Yes. True. Very true.
So we only have a few minutes left, folks, if you want to get in with Mark. If not, there's obviously many sources where you can find Mark. And I'm sure you can walk by him on the street like I did once. I walked past at a hotel and he was walking out. So this is one of the anchors of FanCon. If he were to not attend, I don't think FanCon would be the same.
Oh, well, thanks for saying
He's a wonderful human being, a fantastic actor, a man who I hope to work with in many capacities in the future. Mark Meer, if you haven't come by to say hi, please do it now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, my hands are clammy. All right, guys, take care.